Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining the CIBSE technical webinar, Breaking It Down, Class 2 Building Industry Reforms. I'm Yogesh Maharaj, and I'll be your host today. And I'll be introducing the panelists later on in the piece. So, whilst we wait for all attendees to join the webinar this afternoon, I would like to run through some CIBSE announcements. Okay, before I begin, I would like to start off with acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land. Today, we're joining from many different lands today. We'd like to acknowledge the owners of the country throughout Australia, recognizing their continuing connection to land, waters, and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and emerging. I'd also like to make you aware of CIBSE's latest technical memorandum, Electrification of Buildings for Net Zero. TM67 draws on expertise from across the industry to highlight the challenges and opportunities that arise from the greater electrification of buildings, including plant sizing, demand management, energy use and storage, and the impacts on wider supply network. It highlights where new guidance is needed and points to existing best practice and emergent thinking. It can be downloaded from the CIBSE Knowledge Portal at cibse.org now, and it is free for members. I'd also like to acknowledge our sponsors, Connexus Recruitment, for their support for CIBSE's ANZ's annual program of technical events. Connexus is a boutique recruitment consultancy dedicated to ANZ's design and construction sector. With over a decade of combined experience recruiting exclusively within this space, their consultants are among some of the best in the industry and are proud to be connected, have connected talented individuals from across the globe with some of Australia's most recognized consultancies. They are advocates for people and business in their journey to professional success, striving to bring back a consultative approach to recruitment market. The key disciplines that they recruit for include building services, digital engineering, and project management. Okay, just a quick introduction. Today, Simon Matthews, a Principal Hydraulic and Fire Manager at Northrop, will be leading our presentation. We'll also have Sureka Parajulia, Electrical Principal at Northrop, who will talk about the electrical components. Stuart Johnson, Associate Fire Protection Associate, he'll be talking about the fire protection side of things, and Peter Young, a Principal Mechanical individual, will be talking about mechanical services and the impact of Class 2. So now, this is our agenda today. We'll get stuck straight into it. So I'll just quickly give you a quick introduction of Northrop. Our 45th year this year, going strong, 10 offices across the eastern seaboard, 400 people, and definitely multidisciplinary consulting services. And the owners, we've actually updated there, we're up to about 50 owners that own the business, are locally owned. Now I'd like to pass it over to Simon Matthews to start the presentation. Over to you, Simon.
Thank you, Yogs. I'll just share my screen. Okay, trust everyone can see that. I'll just get this moving along.
Yep,
okay, sorry, just getting there.
Yep.
Okay, the Design and Building Practitioners Act commences in the 1st of July 2021, and it introduces new obligations for professionals working on the Class 2 buildings. What's important by July 2021, it's given everyone 12 months essentially to register on the as design and building practitioners. That registration will, at the moment, it's an automatic registration. If you fill all the forms in and you've signed them all after saying they're truthful, you're automatically accepted. After the 31st of December, if you make any lodging, if you lodge then to become a registered design or building practitioner, your application will then go through a formal approval process before you're accepted as being approved. The reason they've done this because they're trying to improve the level of documentation and also the level of construction, as we're all aware of what we've heard in the news over the last 2 or 3 years. So there's a new duty of care, a register of practitioners, compliance declarations, compulsory insurance, lodgement of design and compliance declarations, changes to the design, code of practice, disciplinary oversights, and information gathering and enforcement. So the important thing about this is a process all the way through. It's properly designed, it's properly coordinated, it's lodged at the New South Wales portal, and that then can be used as a reference guide should it be needed to. I suppose the most important question to ask, what is a Class 2 building? We all know about resi and mixed resi, but we're never quite sure exactly what a Class 2. Well, a Class 2 is a residential building which is more than just a single home. So it can be, as you see here, single-story attached dwellings with a common basement. So a lot of people don't even think that's a Class 2 building because of the common basement. It's a Class 2 building. Dwelling with a granny flat vertically attached, so that's someone else living in the residence. Multi-resident apartment building with a car park, apartment building with shops on the first floor, and apartment buildings with offices occupying some floors. So essentially, it's any building where people live. Okay, who needs to register? Design practitioners were prepared to regulatory design for Class 2 buildings or a building that contains a Class 2 component. It's really important that, as the previous slide indicated, that if a Class 2 building is within several classes, as far as New South Wales First Training is concerned, the whole building is part of Class 2 and it all needs to be lodged. So professional engineers who undertake professional engineering for a Class 2 building or a building that contains a Class 2 component, and building practitioners who are undertaking building work on a Class 2 building or a building that contains a Class 2. So that just reinforces that's a straight little quote there from the standards. There are 2 new registration schemes. This is really important. The first one is becoming registered as a professional engineer. And once you've done that, you can then become a design practitioner or a building practitioner. There's a difference between a design practitioner and a building practitioner. A building practitioner doesn't necessarily need to be a registered engineer, but they need to be a registered builder. So registration and compliance. So who needs to register? As you can see, there's a list of people. I won't go through it all. I'm sure you'll all jump to the one that you're interested in. But the most interesting thing is all of these, you need to be a graduate, have a university degree. Apart from the drainage restricted, and fire systems, being fire systems detection and alarm, sprinklers, hydrants, hose reels. The reason that's different because those particular courses aren't run at university, or the courses that are run at university aren't recognised. So in that case, other courses are accepted, be it diplomas, etc., specialised in those particular areas. What you need to do, you need to be a qualified engineering, as I mentioned. You need to be 18 years or older, a suitable person, and the national police check. Now, national police check is just after your age and confirming your name. It's not a complete police check of your history. To become a professional engineer, there's 3 pathways. So pathway 1 is a full-time undergraduate degree, a postgraduate degree, and a qualification. A qualification confirmed by an Australian university. Pathway 2, this pathway has not been prescribed as yet, because the whole thing has only started in June, July this year. But one thing that's really important, and it's good to note that CIBSE is in discussions with New South Wales Fair Trading to have its members recognised if you don't have a full-time graduate degree. Also, if you can't find your graduate degree or your transcript, if you can prove that you're a member of an approved body, being the Institute of Engineers Australia, that will suffice. Pathway 3, this has not been described what that is as yet, so that hasn't been recognised. Compliance declaration scheme for design and building practitioners. So once you become a registered professional engineer, you then have to become a design practitioner. To do that, you need to do 2 mandatory online courses. One is called Navigating the Design and Building Practitioners Legislation, and the other is The Value of Australian Standards. What's important with those two, they're both online courses. They last about 45 minutes to an hour. At the end of each of those courses, there's a questionnaire, multiple choice, which is about 15 questions. Each question has between 5 and 6 answers, or multiple choice answers. And the important thing is you need to get a pass mark of 80%. There's no need to worry, because if you're struggling with that, you actually get 3 goes at it. So if you don't succeed, try and try again. Just be wary if you don't manage to get the 80%, because it's pretty high and you have to redo it. The questions read the same, but the multiple choice answers are in a different order. So be aware of that. Once you've got that, you then have to fill in the paperwork. So you need to have the 2 courses done. You need to list details of experience, including referees' contact details, and working on Class 2 building examples. I would strongly recommend, before you start to fill the form and you have all that paperwork available, it'll make it so much easier than trying to hunt for it as you try and fill in the forms. Okay, building practitioner. This is someone who agrees to oversees the work. If there is more than one builder, the building practitioner is the principal contractor. So anyone who's working with a large builder, someone like Multiplex or Lendlease, etc., they will, that's a good example, they will be the building practitioner. And they're responsible for making the building compliance declarations, and the building practitioners are responsible for lodging the documents. So if you're an engineer, you've done the work, you've had the drawing stamped, and there's a process of stamping the drawing, and there's a form that you need to fill in, which comes a little bit later. You then give that to the building practitioner, who then lodges that on the New South Wales Fair Trading Portal. For building practitioner, there's also levels of body corporate nominee, and a general, which enables other people to do work within the building. Okay, the moving parts. So, as I just touched on before, does everyone need to register? Well, no, they don't. The people who are working on the design or signing it off, yes, they need to be working on the job, but not everyone who's working on the job needs to be registered. They can work under the supervision of someone who is registered. Submission of documents, the building practitioner is responsible for lodging, as I mentioned, and the head contractor must be registered as a building practitioner. We've had conversations with some developers at the moment, some more of the smaller ones who are struggling with this concept, that they actually need to be involved. So we've been helping guide them through that process. So as you can see, we've got the form there on the side, what you need to do. So it's a matter of filling that in. What's also really important when you do this is to state that you've actually reviewed and coordinated your design with all the other disciplines. So it's just not a silo design. We have to look at everyone else's design. So when they come to site, you're actually producing nearly a set of workshop drawings. So that's a quantum leap to what we're used to doing, even if doing tender drawings. This takes it up to the next level. So it's really important that you're aware that you have to look at and state that you've seen and reviewed and coordinated with everyone else. Regulated designs, design plans and specs reports prepared for the building elements or performance solution for building work. Considered important, likely to have a greater impact on the safety and quality of the construction of the building, and building work construction, alteration or addition, or the repair, renovation and protective treatment of a Class 2 building. So all of those need to be regulated designs, so in accordance with the standards, and have to be accordingly signed off. Regulating design must be lodged before any building work commences. So this is a really important part, that if you've got a Class 2 building which has multiple other classes in it, i.e. a car park, basement car park, maybe a ground floor retail area, as we refer to as a mixed residential, the whole design needs to be submitted. I know some people are trying not to do that, but I think the intent of this is that you have a job that is fully designed all the way through from the basement to the top. Lodgement of documents on the New South Wales portal ensures that there is a record of compliance, and so the cause of defects can be more easily determined. So it's a little bit like when the QA came in. It's very easy to go back and find out what wasn't designed properly and therefore how to rectify it. After the 1st of July, you will need to wait until all designs and declarations have been lodged on the New South Wales Planning Portal for the entire building before works can begin. As I mentioned before, some people have not quite embraced that. Okay, if you change your design after it's been lodged, so variations related to a building element or performance solution will require an authorised design practitioner to declare a new design. This doesn't have to be the same design practitioner who did the original design and had it lodged. This can be someone else as long as they're registered. Variations to an aspect of a regulated design unrelated to a building element or performance solution do not need to be signed off, but must be recorded by the building practitioner in a variation statement. And of course, every time you do a change, the variations needs to be lodged with the New South Wales Planning Portal within 1 day of the variation alongside the design compliance declaration form. Work may need to stop so that the varied design can be prepared and declared within this time frame. So that's something to be really wary of, particularly on tight jobs with programs. It's always push, push, push. There's a process that needs to be followed, and you could expose yourself if this isn't followed properly. And I also think what we've previously mentioned, that the person who did the original design and that was signed off and lodged doesn't need to be the person who was making changes. So if you're on the construction side and you've got subcontractors working on the job and there's changes happening, they need to be registered as a design practitioner. It also means by the end of the job, you've actually produced the as installed documents, because all your changes are being lodged and recorded as they happen. Okay, changes in the original design. As I've just mentioned, do variations to a design need to be made by the original designer? No. The building practitioner can ask any design practitioner who is authorised within the scope to do that. So that's really important to know. It's also important to note, as previously mentioned, that you've got 1 day to turn it around. So the idea of that is that when the original designs are submitted to the New South Wales portal, they're fully worked out, they're fully coordinated, there shouldn't be any changes, unless of course the client wishes to change something, depending on market forces and trends. Okay, so how does this apply to the different disciplines? I'd like to bring my colleague Peter into the conversation, and he'll just describe what's happening in the mechanical system.
Just quickly, Simon, before you go any further, and Peter, guys, I forgot to mention, if you have any questions, and I think Sharon's just put a note out there, go into the Q&A tab at the bottom of your Zoom application and just post your questions in there. We'll have a panel discussion later on. Over to you, Peter.
Thank you, Garish and Simon. So as mentioned before, mechanical needs to declare its design in whole. It's one of the main disciplines that has to declare all of its services. So it doesn't just get restricted to parts of the mechanical services or parts of the services that are only restricted to the Class 2 elements. If you've got a multi-use building, as Simon was explaining before, mixed use, residential, mixed use components all have to form part of the declared design at the time it needs to go through for construction certificate. So it is quite a big step up from previous designs where you could have got away with separate submissions or separate parts of the building being declared at times of the construction sequence. They're now bringing that all back to a point where you need to declare all of your mechanical systems. The other added impost that the mechanical has picked up in regards to our systems is the reliance on making sure that all the coordination is achieved. This is not just mechanical coordination, it's mechanical coordination that impacts the electrical, it impacts the hydraulics and other fire services. So the likes of coordinating and making sure your condensate drains are picked up and coordinated and documented needs to be included in the in your documentation going forward. That's what the Act is trying to make sure, that systems are fully thought through. They're not just a part system, they're fully thought through with all the penetrations and all of the equipment itemised and detailed in all of the Class 2 requirements. And the other requirement, one of the major things, there is quite a number of steps and list of drawings that need to be reviewed, that have been documented, that have been put out by the Act. One of the main things that that is probably different in the documentation that we're finding that we have to put forward for these designs is there is a whole sequence of electrical requirements that need to be itemised and documented in the mechanical systems that probably weren't necessarily documented in previous design and build requirements. So in regards to schematics and electrical schematics that coordinate and make sure that you've got those itemised in your Class 2 requirements. These are some of the main areas that have impacted and increased the amount of drawings and documentation of the mechanical systems required to submit to the portal. If there's any further questions or anything specific, I'm more than happy to take those later on in the presentation. But moving forward, the next discipline that we're going to speak about, Simon.
Electrical. Over to you, Sharika.
Okay, thank you, Simon. So in terms of electrical, as Pete and Simon says, like, the main thing is the coordination. So we need to coordinate with every disciplines, starting from the civil, structurals, mechanical, hydraulics, fire, lightning protections, and you name it. But any services that are required to be certified by NCC are required to be documented and declared. So in terms of the electrical, the main thing is like, we need to prepare a site plan showing the locations of the substations, leading conduits, cables, cable routes, pits and pipe systems, and any services that we cannot conceal, such as cable trays inside the buildings and such. The main important is we need to document all the distribution method from main switchboard up to the endpoint. Apart from that, like, we also need to prepare a 1 to 50 plant room layouts, major plant room layouts such as main switch room, generator rooms, and others. In terms of the main switch room, the one thing, like, I need to make here clear is we need to document the size of the main switch boards, power factor correction, distribution boards, all sort of things to show on the plant layout. So that means, like, we need to coordinate with the contractor or the workshop, electrical workshop drawings before documenting these kind of things. Apart from that, like, we need to document the emergency and exit lighting layout in accordance with the regulated design guidance. We don't need to declare the lighting layout as such, but the emergency lighting layout is very important. And similarly, the lightning protection system is also necessary to be documented. And same as if the electrical is also including the dry fire system, we need to document the automatic smoke alarm and detection system. On top of that, like, finishing, we need to document all the energy management systems and power supplies and controls to the relevant fire system services. So that's basically the electrical. I'll also emphasize that, like, we need to really coordinate at early stage with other services, including we need to work out the penetration details for all services, penetrating the horizontal and vertical ceiling slabs, and coordinate with the structural engineer. That's it from me, Simon. So do you want me to pass it to Stuart?
Thank you. I'll just move on the screen for Stuart. And Stuart, welcome aboard.
Thanks, Simon Surka. The fire systems, fire and hydraulic systems. For the hydraulic systems, the only thing that needs to be declared at the moment is the stormwater systems, while the rest of the services need to be coordinated to assist the mechanical and the electrical and all the other services. And the intent is to have a fully coordinated set of drawings when you finish. The only item needing to be declared for hydraulic services is the stormwater. For the fire services, essentially all of the wet fire services get declared. So it's a full set of design drawings showing all of the information, including some additional detailing that we wouldn't necessarily have produced, as Circus talked about. Some of the plant rooms need to be produced at 1 to 50 scale. The fire detection and alarm systems, these are actually documented by the electrical engineers, and they're declared by the electrical engineers. They're not declared as part of the fire services unless you're certified to do that. It's not possible to do. The fire system control matrix is done by the mechanical system as part of the smoke exhaust or whatever may be happening. With that, the water supply for the fire systems includes the RPZ's connection to tanks and water mains as such. You would see normally shown on a set of fire services drawings. The delineation that may be shown between the hydraulic and fire services as part of contracting all needs to be captured in the fire services that are being declared for the drawings. Plans, scale and elevations, there's an exhaustive list that's available on the building code board, whether the declarations need to be made. And as been touched on by Certifier and others, they need to be fully coordinated with everybody else. Portable fire extinguishers, they're basically BCA compliant, and they just need to indicate type, size and location. Signage is as per the Australian standard. Fire hydrant system plans need to show hydrant hose coverage as part of the drawings that are being lodged, along with your design drawings and the associated bits and pieces. But as has been stressed by my colleagues, these are a fully coordinated set of drawings. So as Simon mentioned, by the time they get to site, they are reasonably well resolved and the changes that are expected would be minimal, which is a little different to what happens or what has happened previously, where the contractors picked up and done most of the final coordination. So that's it for me, Simon. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. Okay, discussion points. I suppose one thing before we start that, I'd just like to say the industry to a certain extent has brought this upon themselves with the embracing D&C style documentation, which has let it open to a lot of people who maybe are just trying to take shortcuts to maximise gain. The downfall of this is, as we've seen in the paper over the last couple of years, buildings failing, buildings not performing properly. So the whole idea of this New South Wales fair trading approach is to make sure that buildings are being built and are fit for purpose. The target of the Class 2 building seems to be of relevance, as it's to do with more, in inverted commas, your mums and dads investors. So they really hurt if a building doesn't perform and meet expectations. So people are being, with this process, people are being made liable, and it's easy to go back and see where things have been poorly designed and where areas need to be improved. So that's the main issue there. So just moving this across, I'll pass this back on to Yogesh.
Thanks, Simon. Okay, guys, so can I get Sureka, Simon, Stuart, and Peter to turn your videos on? I've got a couple of questions here, guys. I know you were hoping you won't have any questions, but so first one, do you mind just stop sharing your screen, Simon, please?
Oh, sorry.
I'll start off with a question. Sureka, I'll come to you on this one.
Sure.
Before we get into this straight away. The question is, in terms of submissions for Class 2, for a submission, are you aware of drawings being requested to be strictly Class 2? So is in your standard electrical drawing, or is the requirement to submit your drawings as they are? So do you have to do separate drawings for Class 2 submission, or could you submit your traditional electrical layouts, for example?
Okay, so this is a very good question, Yogesh. So what we are doing is, at the moment, like, we are submitting two set of drawings, one for purely for Class 2 declaration, and the other set is traditional set that will go to the builder for construction purposes.
Okay, so hopefully that closes that out. So you do need separate documentation submitted. Cool. Okay, let me see how we go with this one here. Okay, so I'll go to Peter Young on this one here. Peter, there are aspects to services design that are performance design, such as seismic supports. Where is there guidance as to what elements are expected to be documented? You mentioned penetrations will change depending on subcontractor equipment selection. So I guess from a seismic protection point of view, I guess maybe apply to a mechanical sense, all your mounts and things, like how far do you actually document?
So these need to be well-developed documentation. You obviously can't leave, especially with seismic restraints and the requirements around seismic restraints of equipment and ductwork. They need to be worked through with the structural engineer. They can't be left to chance in the sense of the requirements that we had previously that get picked up by the contractor. So they do need to be developed, and they need to be evolved to a point that both disciplines and the builder and everyone is fully aware of what the requirements are for those seismic restraints. You can still have parts of that as a performance issue, but as where anchors and where equipment need to be tied down, they need to be resolved as part of the documentation. Second part of the question in regards to penetrations, again, this is where the documentation has to be further developed and fully developed from the point of view of coordinated with any structural or even an architectural issues from facade penetrations and the like as well. You can't have changes in those elements because that will then have a flow-on effect to the structural requirements and the structural design and then the structural certification that they're providing. So they have to be fairly well resolved to a point that they aren't going to change and they aren't going to move within the building. If they do, as Simon was alluding to, there are changes that do happen in construction. We all know that does occur. They will then have to be changed and redeclared as part of the process in the Class 2 requirements. So the onus now is to make sure that these documents are fully developed and fully coordinated to a point that they are resolved and there isn't too many variations upon those selections.
Thanks.
If I could just jump in there, Yokes, to Pete's point, and exactly, it's about coordination. And I know structurally it's something they're really aware of, the seismic restraints and how it impacts on their structural system. So as we mentioned before, not only do we have to look at everyone else's designs, they also have to look at ours as well. So there's that cross coordination that's being forced upon all the designers to make sure it's done properly.
Cool. Okay, since you're on speaking, Sam, this one's directly aimed at you. So got a good question here. Why do hydraulic services systems not need to be declared if they form part of the critical infrastructure? I guess if things go wrong, why isn't it being declared?
I don't know, to be perfectly honest. Out of all the standards, the hydraulics with AS 3500, we have the most to comply with, and certainly there's a real concern about health and hygiene with proper sanitation and clean drinking water. I think that will come in. At the moment, they're focusing on stormwater because they have a problem with leaking buildings, which is a real issue. I think the leaking building issue is more of a flashing detail, which is an architectural waterproofing item, not so much strictly a hydraulic one, but it all falls under that banner. One thing I will say, that there was always been a lack of coordination, I'd suggest, between structural roofing systems, particularly if it's a truss or a steel roof, and box gutters. We design what we need, the architect does what they need to do, and the structural engineer does what they need to do, but the three of us don't tend to talk to each other, and then we find that on site there's an issue. So out of this, pushing that coordination forward will be a really good thing.
No worries. Thanks, Simon. Hopefully that answers the question there, James. I've got another hydraulic one. I'll actually use the services of Stuart on this one. So hydraulic services also pose a critical coordination element that all services are required to coordinate. I guess it's a follow-on from the question before, saying if we're not going to, if we're not required to show the hydraulic side of things. So, yeah.
We're not required to declare that they have been coordinated, but the only way you can get to the end where all of the other services have been coordinated is that they form part of the overall process. It's just a formal paperwork that you would expect. And I also, as Simon has said, don't understand why not, but it would have to be coordinated with the hydraulic services. It's just the paperwork to state that and to declare the design has actually been coordinated isn't currently being provided. I don't know that won't change. The fact we're not declaring the hydraulic services doesn't mean that we're not providing the design certification for it, and it just means that there's no paperwork to say that the coordination has been done. But for the other services, electrical, fire and mechanical, they must be coordinated with all services. So by default, it's everything in the building. Yeah,
so I think it's just a requirement of certain things that need to be clearly declared, but in order to do that, you have to coordinate. I think Peter Young mentioned that previously, that you have to coordinate with all the other services and still provide certification for all of the other things you design. Okay, so next one here, I'll go to Peter Young on this one, actually, his favorite topic around 3D modeling and the like. So full coordination means pretty much 3D, right? Okay. I guess the question is, can we manage this with AutoCAD in 2-dimensional? I guess the concern out there is there's already so much pressure on fee submission from a consulting point of view. 3D means essentially producing more drawings and the like. So I guess put your Northrop hat on here and thinking, how would you handle this?
From a Northrop perspective, we've made the decision that we will be doing 3D. to make sure that we do have coordination. There is nothing in the Act that requires you to submit a 3D model or 3D drawings to the portal. They are all 2D or PDF drawings of your layouts and of your drawings. But in the declaration that you fill in, you've got to fill in forms, and you've got to sign as a professional engineer and as a design practitioner that you have coordinated and that you have taken all steps to make sure that you have coordinated and this building can be built the way it's designed and the way the design is intended on your drawings. So if that means you need to do 3D for your own sanity, then that's the way you have to go about it. But agree with the other sentiment there in regards to fees. It's a very difficult marketplace out there, and this is one of the things that Simon was mentioning before. There's been a little bit more, or been too much emphasis on particular clients and developers, and looking at pricing things too sharply in that regard. So and that has caused issues that we've seen in the market, and obviously that's all been quite evident in the media. So what the whole design practitioner guide is trying to do is up spec and up the technical deliverables that we're producing, so that's a better product at the end of the day. And the only people that will benefit from that are the people that own the buildings and own the apartments. So it's all to their benefit.
Thanks. Yeah, I think that's right. I think don't be surprised. People are aware of this. A lot of the discussion we're holding with end clients and project managers, everyone's across this now, and I think there's a number of them actually joined here. This one is, Sureka, maybe I'll go to you. I guess the best way to ask you this question is, say you finished a electrical design and you put in a submission into the portal. I guess what would constitute a variation? I guess the definition of variation, is it, I'm not going to put words in there. I guess the question is there visibility of the variation status on the portal? And what is expected response time from New South Wales Planning?
Okay, so from the electrical perspective, if there's like, the relocation of one GPOs or relocation of one lights or whatever, I don't think that's that causes a variation. However, if there's a relocation of the major electrical plant, a plant room, or the whole cable ducts or trays or conduit routes and all sorts of things, that constitute the variation. And if there's a variation, thus the work on the site need to be stopped, need to be verified, updated the drawings within 24 hours, and then they can commence the work.
So it's within 24 hours pretty much. Correct. Before they commence the work. So
correct.
Okay, cool. All right, the next question I'll move on to, I'll go over to you, Simon. This is more from a developer's perspective. I think the question, what are the developers saying about this? It's one thing. Are they aware all these additional work to model and coordinate will take longer? And what is their side of discussion? So have you had any experiences lately talking to a developer perhaps?
It's a good question. I think the developers are coming to terms with this and trying to understand the complexity and the process that's now required. There's a complete shift in mindset about, okay, let's start the building, we'll build a hole, get that little package set up, and then we'll do the shoring, we'll do that little package, and then we'll do the basement, that's a package. And while that's happening, the rest of the building's being designed. Well, you can't do that now. So it's going to have an enormous impact on the program. The question, I think, really to the developer is, if the client still wishes to do a D&C type role, where the finalisation of the design is up to the contractor will have to take on professional engineers and design practitioners to finalise that design. They also will need to understand that they can't do a piecemeal approval process. They have to get it all in one go to the portal. So there's a lead lag with this. Hopefully by doing that, though, it will save time on site, because there'll be less time delays on site because everything's been thought through thoroughly prior to commencement on site.
Cool. Thanks for that, Simon. So I'm pretty much done with all the questions on the Q&A, but I've got a couple of others on the chat here. So the question here, Stuart, for yourself, isn't dry fire bows with smoke detectors under fire system rather than electrical? I guess it's back to you. I think someone's just asking, is it electrical or is it?
No, that's one of the anomalies in the system, that it is actually required to be declared by the electrical engineer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess everyone's structured a bit differently. There's certain accreditation there. we've got that one there. So another question here, I'll go to you, Simon. How does one apply for professional engineering registration for fire? Actually, go to Stuart, sorry, in this one. For fire services, it's not listed on the New South Wales Fair Trading list.
Correct, it's not listed on the New South Wales Fair Trading list. CSFP accreditation will get you registration with the current Act. You don't need to be an engineer, as Simon talked about earlier. There's a couple of things of fire and hydraulics do not require you to be an undergraduate or graduate engineer, professional engineer. So that's diploma of hydraulic services or CSFP accreditation will get you registered for the Class 2 buildings.
Thank you. All right, one for you, Sureka. If an electrician puts forward an alternative light fitting during the construction stage, does this constitute a variation to the submitted design?
That's a very good question. I guess I want to ask that question as well. But there's two things. The first thing is, like, as per the declaration guidelines, we don't need to declare the lighting design as such. However, when we are submitting the drawings in the portal, we have to specify all the equipment plans and everything. So if there's the contractor need to put forward the alternate light fittings, so I think it will be the building practitioner's discretion whether he will accept or not. If he will accept it, so I would say, like, reviewing it through the engineers, is that going to impact the overall layout or not?
Yeah, I think, just to assist with that, answer your question, Michael, there is, whenever there's a change, I think it's all about accountability in this part here. So if the electrician does make the change and the building practitioner traditionally will be the builder, is allowed that there's got to be some form of record that this change happened. The whole premise is around when something does fail in the future, they come back and see who made the decision or when did it actually change. So yeah, to answer your question, definitely constitute that'll be variation. The other one I've got here, I think, Stuart, where can we find details? Okay, not sure if this one's been answered. I'll go to you, Simon, on this one here. Where can one find the detailed list of declared design documentation required, i.e. what's required, scale? Yeah, I think we had it in the presentation, but I'll let you answer that, Simon.
Yeah, look, it's all on the New South Wales Fair Trading website. Look, it's a real minefield. Every time you click on something, it takes you down another rabbit hole. So that's a challenge, but it's all listed there, and it's different for every discipline, as we touched on before. So you need to, I'm not really answering your question, but you need to really go through and read it. There's not one answer I can come up with for that.
Yeah, I think there is a schedule there that lists out all of the relevant discipline items that you need to. It's actually a little matrix that you need to go through. I've got one here. I'll go to Peter on this one. Environmental consultants or ESD consultants, do they need to register? I'm not sure about that one, Peter.
I don't believe so. I was just looking up to see if they were required. I can't see their requirements being listed. So so I don't give the actual wrong answer. I will have to take that on notice and come back to you, unless Simon has picked it up in his review, but I don't believe so.
No, I think not directly, but indirectly, yes, through the architects.
Yeah, I think I guess to answer that question further, if the directive from a sustainability consultant is to change equipment or whatever impact it has on a certain equipment, I think it falls with the discipline. Yeah, the disciplines will capture that. I don't think there's a requirement for that. Okay, I think we're getting to the end here. Okay, when would CIBSE manage to get the CEng members design practitioner status for relevant disciplines? I won't read the last one. It seems to be taking a while here. Sharon, are you still online there? Might be one for yourself if you could help us with this one. Yeah. I think what it is, as far as I know, I think it's early, the first quarter of 2022. Is that correct, Sharon?
Sorry, were you asking about Pathway 2?
Yeah, so the question is, when would CIBSE manage to get the CEng members design practitioner status for relevant disciplines?
So myself and the head of and the director of membership did have a chat last month, I think it was, with a New South Wales Fair Trading, and that the pathway 2, they think the applications for that will be out by early next year. They said, so they've been a bit vague on it, but we did have a good discussion with them, and they thought that we were well positioned to be an assessing entity for that. However, we just have to wait until the application process opens, and we are going to probably be looking at pathway 2 and pathway, and what we can do to be an assessor maybe on pathway 3 as well.
Okay, awesome. I think that's it, guys. I think we have no further questions I can see on the chat or the Q&A. Let me just double check, make sure we've captured everything. I think that's it. So yeah, I think we can, we'll give a couple more minutes. We can, I guess, wait for, okay, here we go, Simon. This one's a good one. Yeah, that's one. What is pathway 3?
Pathway 3 hasn't been recognised, so I suppose at the end of the day, what's not in pathway 1 and pathway 2 will be in pathway 3. I think it will recognise on-site and experience gained over the years, which you'll have to be able to prove yourself and document it properly. As we all know, there's a lot of people who have gone through the university process, but they're certainly very accomplished and across the discipline that they're focused on. So I think that's what will be the case.
Yeah, I think that's correct. I think I did miss one question here. I think there was a question around, I'll go to yourself, Peter, on this one. What's your opinion on the legislation class 2 where we've got it now? What do you think the future will be? I guess, is this going to be applied to the other classifications as well, i.e. health and aged care and the like?
The motivation is that it will be rolled out to other classes of buildings in the near future. Obviously, from a point of view of the most important ones that they saw that they needed to do straight away was the residential class 2 buildings, and that was the importance that they were pushing for first, cab off the rank. But within the next 5 years, they are saying that they will consider and roll out these types of registrations to all classes of buildings, and it'd probably be more aligned along the lines of the registered engineers in Queensland and Victoria, where you have to be registered to be able to do the work on those buildings. So it's going to be rolling in line with more of a national approach in that regard.
Yeah, I think, again, it's like you said, Simon, I think you mentioned it because this is quite close to the mums and dads of the world, especially in residential with the investment. And I think some of the other sectors are already working quite closely with, for example, when we do health, it's all scrutinized as modeling. There's checkpoints and things that obviously get put in place, but I think it's class 2 is the first one. I think it's here to stay. I think other states are already doing this. If you're working in Victoria, you've got the BBA that monitors this, and same thing in Queensland as well, the RPQ. I think here we go, question. Okay, this one, let's see who's got I think this one might be a good one for you, Sureka. So when submitted on the planning portal, do they give us a tick or a stamp? So I guess once you submit the drawing, is it a tick or a stamp? What actually happens when it's sent? Say, example, they aren't happy with the job. So what happens once you press the send button?
So basically, like, our design, we will pass it to the building practitioner, and building practitioner will log onto the portal. So it will stay there until there's some issues.
Yeah, so to really answer the question, yeah. Sorry, yeah.
So I was going to answer that question. The portal and the planning portal isn't a QA process. So there's no verification of your designs that are being put forward. So it's the onus is with the design engineer while you have to be registered, and the professional competency that you provide in your designs for your equipment, it lies with you as the individual. The portal isn't a QA process where they will check your designs. It's only a depository of where your designs are being lodged for scrutiny, let's say, if and when something goes wrong in the future.
Yeah, if I could just add on to what Peter was saying, which is correct. They will look at certain things. There's certain criteria you have to get right. One of them is you've got to have a stamp on every drawing on the top left-hand corner. It's got to be a certain format, and you can't deviate from that. There's certain forms you have to fill in. If you don't do that and comply with all the requirements of lodging a document, they will push it back to you. So it's well worth spending the time to get it right the first time.
Yeah. I'll go to Stuart on the next one here. It's a good one, Stuart, and you're very black and white with this one, which you'll nail. I guess we've got previously PCA and certifiers, and all of a sudden now we've got a building design practitioner kind of thing. So the question is really, is it overlapping, or what actually happened? I guess give us a scenario if you had any experience now on a project where you've got a certifier and you're having to do this class 2 submission. What's actually happening? Where's the demarcation? You're on mute, mate. Sorry.
Apologies, I knew I'd get there. We're certifying the design to be compliant with the BCA. So therefore the requirements for the certifier still apply. This is paperwork for a record to demonstrate that we had documented and designed the building, and the building all worked. So if something goes wrong later on, they can pull out a piece of paper and understand either it wasn't constructed or the design was not correct in the first place. But the requirements of the BCA still apply, and we still need to certify in accordance with the BCA. So nothing from that perspective has changed. This is additional paperwork to make sure, additional requirements to make sure we're all doing a full design as we used to do many, many years ago. And it's moving back away from the D&C component.
I guess the role of the PCA, are they actually setting out, you know how they traditionally put out a matrix and say you need to certify to these? Are they
still the same?
Helping with the class 2 part of things as well now?
I understand it's still the same list of questions. I haven't seen any change in what the certifier is asking for today. Okay. That may change as time comes along, but no.
Okay, I'll go to Simon here. We've got one here. Once you submit the documents onto the portal, what happens? Do you get a notification?
I don't know. I haven't had to submit for anyone just yet. You will, because it's a process. So you should have some feedback on that for your own records to say it's been lodged. I think that's important to know in case any questions are asked at a later date.
Sureka, you're smiling down there. You got an answer there. Have you had any experience with this one?
No, I'm just like these questions, laughing at the question. As I said, like, we're the design practitioner and we are not the building practitioner. So the building practitioner is the one who upload the drawings. So maybe he may have received the correspondence, but we don't know.
So yeah, just for everyone's information, yeah, the builder takes a big role in managing things from there onwards. So any changes, all of those things. Yeah, I think we're out of the questions now. I'm sure someone will ask another one. I guess from a business point of view, I'll just ask a general question there. I guess I start with yourself, Sureka, just to wrap things up. Electrically, are you seeing this as an opportunity or a challenge? What do you think this, I guess from an industry point of view? And I'll come to Peter, Simon and Stuart as well. I guess think about that. What do you think?
I think it's a bit of both. I think it's a good initiative. Like, at the moment, like, the engineer designs something and then up to the DNC, and the DNC contractor come in and they will, smash our design, and they will prepare some like documentation which is of a minimal qualities, and the equipments, whatever they propose is alternatives, and then at the end, like, the designer. Engineer's design is one thing and the contract design is two different things. So in that case, like, this act is very good for, finding those kind of minimal quality jobs, what contractors or builders are doing on site. The other hand is like, in the traditional way is like the designers, they issue the drawings, construction drawings, and after that the contractors comes on board and they will prepare the workshop drawings, they will prepare the switchboard workshop drawings and other equipment workshop drawings. So those bits of things, like, at the moment we are missing. So, and then there's a gap between here. At the moment we are preparing the main switchboard room layout, but we don't have that, the electrical switchboard workshop drawings. So we have to be, there's a gap between there, and we have to be very careful when sizing the switch room and things like that. So there's some challenges. Other than that, I think this is a good initiative.
Thank you. So Simon, going to you, I guess from a hydraulic point of view, opportunity or challenge, but I've also got a question here before you answer that. I guess question is, are declarations required with CC documentation?
Yes, that's when they get lodged.
Yeah, so that's when it's, yeah. Like I say, from a hydraulic point of view, do you think this is an opportunity, or is it?
I think it's a great opportunity to, a little bit along the lines of Shreka, to lift the whole industry. We've been on a pretty slippery slope for quite a while. People, cutting costs at every possible opportunity. I think people have to realise they need to be prepared to pay for a proper, fully engineered job and respect the experience and the qualifications of the people doing that design. So I think they need to start. If they pay the right fee, they'll get the right result, which will help them. It'll help them on that product long term, and it will also help them sell their product.
Stuart, over to yourself, just from a fire point of view, I guess before you talk about the fire whole sector there. Recently we had the accreditation for fire and things. How does that all work with the Class 2 side of things? Does one override the other? Do you have to have both, for example?
You still require CSFP accreditation for all fire services, I understand, and the declaration of the designs is something else again. To get your certification from the BCA, you need to be CSFP accredited. This is a parallel process that's, and the qualification for the CSFP accreditation is accepted for the Class 2 registrations or Class.
It's transferable. Yeah,
it is. Well, it's that's what they've accepted as being evidence of being suitably qualified. Yeah,
I guess opportunities, challenges. What do you see?
Much the same. I think it's a good thing really. It'll lift the standard of what we're producing. And lift the standard of the issue will be ensuring that the fees go up to reflect the additional work that's now going back into a full design as used to be, and it'll end up with a better product. That's
Over to you, Pete, but before you go into mechanical, I'll ask you a tricky one. Insurances. So I guess, what does it do to you as a professional at Northrop here, and the business owners? What does it do to your insurance policy?
Well, there's two things. One, it certainly makes you, when you got to sign on the dotted line, you got to make sure that you've got everything covered and your design is going to do what you say it's going to do on paper, and is quite clear about how that's going to perform, so that there's no ambiguity. So make sure that you do the necessary backroom work to ensure that it is correct. From insurances, there's a number of ways. Obviously, personally, you put your name on the line, but at Northrop, we've registered as a company, so our insurance as a company protects us as our individuals from the insurances. So we're not personally putting our house on the line, as they say in some of the other, like in the registered engineers in Queensland. But so from a company point of view, there are a number of different ways that you can manage your insurances to accommodate the requirements of the Act. From an opportunity, it's definitely an opportunity. I think it's the greatest opportunity is to actually show what we're capable of doing as engineers. It gives us the opportunity to put forward proper designs and work through designs coordinated to the value and to the benefit of our clients, our contractors, our developers, and just actually show them that we are professional engineers and we do have the knowledge and can deliver on our statements. So I see this as a great step forward to be able to develop the industry in a step change and get engineering back on the front page.
One more, mate. One more question here, and again, it's landed with you, I think. The real question is on the 3D part of it: is the future Revit 3D? Because previously we've never had issues with 2D, coordination, but seemingly more discussions around 3D. Is this a phase or honestly engineering in the future? So I guess in your professional opinion,
my professional opinion is I think the 3D is the way for the future. I think it does give us a greater and more benefit in being able to coordinate. It gives us a better product. From an engineering wise, we can simply design fan coil units and air conditioning systems to suit these requirements, but to be able to coordinate and make sure that they fit within a 3D environment, I feel the only way that can be done is with 3D. It takes a special person to be able to look at a plan in a 2D environment and imagine that being being in 3D, and with the technology that we have available with all sorts of different programs and software, the ability to do this in 3D isn't too far from what we're doing today.
All right, guys, I'll let you say thanks to the panelists. We're just on time now at 1:30. So thanks again, taking time out, guys. So if you want to raise your hand, not raise your hand, give them some congratulations, virtual claps and things. So thanks, Peter Youngs, Rebecca Parajulis, Simon Matthews, and Stuart Johnson. And again, guys, keep an eye out for the next series and the like that'll be coming up. So go to the website, have a look. This will be all available to you if you're a member for free, so you can go back and rewatch it again. If you do need further questions, just send an email to us and we'll help you sort it out. So thanks again for joining, and yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you. Good
Thank you.
afternoon.
Thank you.
Bye bye. You stay on.